It has been clear for months that we are barreling towards an ever-worsening economic catastrophe atop the public health crisis. And if we get this wrong from a policy perspective, it could be as bad or worse than the Great Depression. I know that sounds insane, but that's basically where we are right now. I mean, the number of new jobless claims over the last few months has already made past economic crises look like blips on the chart. And yet, with just 2 weeks until coronavirus unemployment benefits for 30 million Americans expire, the Trump administration and congressional Republicans have basically kept quiet. Until today, when the White House unveiled their solution to this once-in-a-lifetime workforce disruption, telling unemployed Americans to strike out on their own and, quote, find something new. No, that's really the phrase. That's the slogan. Not surprisingly, this new campaign was met with immediate backlash, especially because it was unveiled by Ivanka Trump, a woman who has never had to hunt for a job in her life because of who her father is. And while the White House is suggesting that tens of millions of Americans should spruce up their resumes and get some more training, former Vice President Joe Biden unveiled a $2 trillion plan to use climate policy as an economic development tool. Here's what Trump had to say about Biden's plan in an absolutely rambling Rose Garden appearance just a little while ago.
Mandate all 500,000 school buses and all 3 million government vehicles be changed to zero-emission vehicles within 5 years. I've heard of worse than that.
Yeah, it's not bad. Joining me now for more on the president's lack of a real economic plan and suggesting unemployed Americans should just find something new, Mehdi Hasan, senior columnist for The Intercept, host of the Deconstructed podcast, and a presenter for Al Jazeera English. I was so struck by this today, Mehdi, because, you know, one thing that happened during the last Great Recession was you had these voices saying, oh, there's a skills mismatch. You know, the problem is the American worker doesn't have the right skills to compete in today's economy. And then it turned out it was like, no, just the economy is garbage. And when it gets better, then unemployment goes away when there's opportunities. And it is crazy in the midst of this of all times to try to bring that back as like the idea about what's wrong with the American economy.
Yeah, Chris, it's crazy to do that at any time when the economy is in a ditch like it is now, when there are no jobs around. It's even crazier to put Ivanka Trump in charge of it, to make her the face of that find something new campaign. This is a woman who was born with a silver shovel in her mouth, who, as you just pointed out, has never had to find a new job herself in her entire life. She set up a business using her dad's brand name. She works in the White House today because her dad hired her for a job she's manifestly unqualified for. This is a woman whose husband and father's catastrophic mishandling of this virus, Chris, is the reason the economy is so bad right now, is the reason millions of Americans have lost their jobs. And I just think, as you said, we're also, at the end of July, millions of Americans are going to lose $600 in additional funding. We should be focused on that, not this gimmicky nonsense. And yet the Trump family has no plan to replace that funding. This is all PR fluff. There's no new money here. There's no policy here. This isn't a jobs guarantee. It's nothing.
Here's the craziest dynamic in American politics and policy right now, and it continues to be, is that the Democrats passed a multi-trillion-dollar rescue bill through the House called the HEROES Act. There are Democrats calling for payroll protection programs and $2,000 a month, and huge amounts of money being pumped in the economy in the 4 months before the incumbent Republicans up for re-election, when a growing economy would help him politically, right? So it's against political interest, but they're pushing for it. And Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, it's like, are just AWOL on this thing, even though it would help Republicans if they would get their act together to do something. And Biden today is running against them saying we need a lot more money. Like, it's a bizarre dynamic.
Everything about this presidency is bizarre. And yes, as you point out, the idea, fighting the coronavirus would help Trump get reelected. Wearing a mask would help Trump get reelected. He doesn't do things that would even help himself. Finding jobs for these people would help him bolster his bona fides. Mitch McConnell, who knows what his grand plan for saving the Senate is? The only job vacancies he wants to fill are jobs in the judiciary. That's the only jobs plan that Mitch McConnell has. So it's bizarre to see these people basically wrecking the American economy, wrecking American lives. And, Chris, for the second time in 12 years, a Republican president has inherited a growing economy from a Democrat, driven it into the ditch, and now plans to hand it over to another Democrat to fix it again. This is not an accident. This is not, what's the line? The chaos. It's not a bug. It's a feature. It's part of who this president is. He can't handle public health crises. He can't handle economic crises. And Trump, the name Trump, is now a byword for nepotism, corruption, and incompetence, which is so bizarre, therefore, to put Ivanka Trump out there. as your face for this. It just makes no sense. She comes out and says she's fighting with people on Twitter today, Chris, defending this nonsense. And, people are pointing out it's Bastille Day today. It's July 14th. She's doing her best Marie Antoinette impression. Let them eat cake. Find something new.
There's also there's a sort of ideological portion of this that I find pretty fascinating, too, which is that I don't know if Donald Trump doesn't have any real sort of beliefs on any of this. I think he wants to just get reelected, whatever it takes. But you do see among some Republicans inside the $600 coronavirus bonus and unemployment you talked about. They are worried that if there is too much rescue money for people, it will not discipline them enough to go out and get to work. So there is real. They have expressed this time and time again. Like if you have rental, if you have forbearance on foreclosures or evictions, if you have the $600 bonus, if you're taking care of people, you need to kind of like smoke them out of their holes to get them back into the workplace, which is part of the driving logic behind McConnell and the Republican caucus right now.
So you have Republicans, Chris, talking about, yes, let's not give people $600. Let's not give them an incentive to stay home. We can't have people getting more money than they had when they had a job. So you have Republicans now saying, let's give people a return to work bonus, which again is absurd. There are 1.6 million fewer job openings today than there were in February. Return to what work? Which jobs? And even if there were lots of vacancies and lots of employers saying, come back, which there aren't, why should we be insisting people go to work in Arizona, in Texas, in Florida, where a virus is exploding, where their lives are at risk in those crowded indoor workplaces? We should be paying people to stay at home. Some of us have been saying this since February. Pay people to stay home, beat the virus, and then you save the economy. This is not rocket science.
Yes, and it is also increasingly clear there's portions of the economy that we have tried to bring back. Indoor bars is an example that probably can't come back safely. And so there's a lot of people that work in those industries, and they shouldn't be just out of luck. Like, we should take care of them to make sure that they can meet the needs of their lives and their families. And it's wild to me to consider that we're now up against the deadline on this. Heading into July of this expiration, we still basically have nothing from the White House or Mitch McConnell. Mehdi Hasan, it's always great to talk to you, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks.